Today I want to talk about happiness. People say to me all the time, Tate, what's the secret to being happy? What's the secret to being happy? In a scientific term, there's not really such thing as cold. Cold is just a lack of heat. Heat has a scientific, you can observe heat scientifically. The atoms move or things jitter or whatever, and heat is generated. But cold isn't a thing. Cold is just a lack of heat. And for that perspective, when people say to me, Tate, how do you be happy? I try to explain to them, happiness isn't a thing. Happiness is just a lack of grief, as cold is just a lack of heat. And when I say this to people, they look at me like, oh, what are you talking about? Or, well, that's not true because I don't feel happy. We are not children anymore. We're grown-ups, and grown-ups have responsibilities and stresses, and things are on our shoulders. When you say you want to be happy, what you're saying is you want to feel like you did when you were 2 years old, and you got given those jelly beans, and you were staying up late, and you had no fucking worries in the world. That ain't gonna happen. You're a fucking grown-up. You are never gonna have a life that's that carefree. That giddish happiness, that childish happiness you felt inside when you were a child is specifically that. It's childish happiness. Happiness for grown-ups doesn't work that way. Happiness for grown-ups is an absolute lack of grief. And when I say this, people go, oh yeah, but I'm sad. You ain't sad, motherfucker. You ain't sad. Imagine the worst thing that could happen to you. Imagine your entire family's in a car and they get in a car crash in the M1 and they all die. Your wife, your parents, your siblings, all of them die at once. That's the worst thing that could happen to you. Has that happened today? And if you're watching this video and go, no, that hasn't happened today, then you're fucking happy because you're not grief-stricken. You're not completely breaking down in tears in a state of mind where you cannot imagine life ever being the same again. So if you don't feel that way, you are happy. You're just not as happy as you imagine yourself to be as a kid because you're a fucking immature moron. You're trying to attain a happiness which you're only going to attain 2 or 3 times in your adult life. So I've won 4 kickboxing world titles. Each time I won one of them, I felt that childish type happiness. When I made my first million, I felt that childish type happiness. When I made my 10th million, I felt that childish like happiness. But in general, besides very, very key events, you're not going to feel that happy every fucking day. It would be abnormal for you to feel that happy every day. And the reason people are taking these antidepressants and going through life making up this complete garbage saying that depression's a thing when it isn't, is because they're trying to find a level of happiness which you are not programmed to experience every fucking day. If you are not grief-stricken, if you are not in a state of mind where you are literally don't know how to go forward, if there's not tears running from your eyes, then you're a happy person. And there's a tribe in Africa which view color completely different to us. It's an actual real interesting documentary. I'll try and find it and link it in this video about how language affects how we see. Because to them, 2 very similar shades of blue, and I mean very similar, like I would struggle to decipher between the 2. To them, they have different names. So because they have different names, for them it's very easy to see, as easy as black and white, these 2 different shades of blue. Whereas to me, it's just different, slightly different turquoise. And it's exactly the same as anything else. How you perceive things is how they end up viewing. You view yourself as unhappy where you're unhappy. And you start to understand that happiness is something you can perceive and you can set the boundaries of. You're setting the boundaries of happiness at the absolute top of that childish, giddy, giggle bullshit. What you need to do is extend those boundaries and understand that anything above grief is happiness. If you say to me, Tate, how are you happy? I'm happy because I'm not grief-stricken. I'm happy because today none of my family members have died. Both of my arms and both of my legs are still here. We're pushing around in this Bentley. This fucking cement truck right in front of us could come and crash into the side of me and take out my fucking one of my arms. Then I'd be unhappy. But right now, both my arms are working. My family members are alive. I'm just gonna pass this cement truck quickly before anything bad happens. I have nothing to be fucking sad about. And if you're gonna pretend, if you're not smart enough to be able to look at your life and say, my life is not as bad as it could be. I'm not in Syria with no legs and dead family and no food to eat. My life is not over. My life is okay. If you should be able to look at your life like that and be happy, and that's a sign of intelligence. If you refuse to do that, then you're either low IQ, extremely selfish, or most likely an attention-seeking moron. Because we live in a world where people find the easiest way to get attention is to invent ailments. Oh, poor me, I'm depressed. Fuck off. Key to being happiness is to decide you're happy. That's the key to being happy. So anyone, I'm going to make this video because I get asked all the time, Tate, were you happy before you had money? Yeah. Am I happier now I have money? Probably a bit. But that's not what it's about. I've always been happy my entire fucking life because I decided to be happy.